It's major week on Gaming Golf. We're at the U.S. Open at Brookline. Looking forward to chatting with Jeff Ritter. We'll break down the DFS angles, the betting angles, talk one and dones, all coming up next. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Gaming Golf Podcast. I'm Scott Jenstad, joined as always by Jeff Ritter. Our other Jeff Erickson, is in Ireland, presumably scouting for future British Open episodes of the podcast. So hopefully he'll get us some good intel there. But Jeff, it's a major
set.
week.
We need a set in Ireland. That's what I'm hoping. He's scouting locations.
Ooh, I like that idea too. But Jeff, how are you? It's major week. It's always fun.
It's good. Yeah, it's. I'm excited for U.S. Open week. The major weeks feel bigger in the world of golf. They feel bigger on our podcast. This has been one long week, really, since our last show. I mean, the Live Golf, the swirl of news and just like seismic stories coming out of this thing. They played their first event. Yeah, Mickelson back in. I mean, there's just so many things flying around that, in a way, it feels like this major week started like 6 days ago. Not necessarily that Live Golf was a major, but just it has such a huge impact on the game of golf. And, golf has been along with the NBA finals, basically leading SportsCenter for a week now. Yeah. It's rare that golf leads SportsCenter 2 weeks in a row, like you get the majors, but now you got, Live Golf rolling right into US Open. So it's an electric time to be in golf media. There's a lot happening, but it's nice to be here. I'm excited to preview the Open with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to get to the Open in 1 second. I'm going to ask you two Live Golf questions first, if that's cool.
Sure.
One,
We're
did
live,
you watch?
Unrehearsed. I don't know what these are, so
did you watch any of the broadcast last weekend? If so, what did you think? What was kind of your impression from the 54-hole tournament in London?
Yeah, well, I watched a lot of it. I just, for part of us, what we do at Sports Illustrated, we cover the news. It's a news event, so we wanted to, we had several folks kind of log in and just check it out. And I guess I thought a lot about a couple of things. Like two metaphors kept popping up in my head. One was the F1 influence. Yep. The laps. They show the laps to go. Live Golf used that with showing the number of holes to go and kind of the moving leaderboard that was very dynamic on the left side. Even though the player names were abbreviated too short, they didn't really make sense for people who follow golf closely. I don't think you can really understand those names, but I see where they're going with like a countdown clock and like, there's an F1 influence on this show that I didn't expect that surprised me. And then the other thing is, I think for me, I need more to care about than just money. I think it's going to be very important for this league to find a gambling partner, because I just don't know how, like the suspense of will Charles Schwartzel become even richer? I think you're going to need something to hook people. They're starting to accumulate a list of names that's, I think, deeper than we ever expected. I mean, the recent, Phil announced a while ago, but the list of defections, and people on the move continues to grow. So what are you going to do with those guys? How do you make people now really care and invest in this new tour? And so they got to get on TV, and I think they need to get into they need to partner with somebody in a gambling apparatus of some kind to get people betting and just kind of passionate about it through that door. Those are my thoughts. What did you think? Did you watch?
I watched a little bit. I have to admit that as I watched more, I became kind of disinterested. There just wasn't enough. Like, your golf media, you kind of have to watch it for work. I'm more, I'm a golf fan and I love watching. But I thought the F1 thing was really interesting. It's interesting you brought that up, because the first thing I thought was I looked at them that looks like an F1 leaderboard. But in F1, there's 20 drivers. Everybody knows who they all are. Everybody knows all their names. So the 3 letter abbreviation just works. And then I just didn't think it worked at all. There were a couple of guys that, I knew a lot of the players, but, from doing this, I know some of the Euro guys and all that. But I admit there were players that I had no idea who they were, and you put up their 3-letter abbreviation, and I know who they are even less than before. I mean, whoever the guy with the long last name was that was leading, like I had no idea who that was when they put the leaderboard up. Then I looked up his name, I'm like, oh, I've seen that name before. But and then like Dustin Johnson, they changed the 3-letter abbreviation a couple times too. He was like JSN, then he was JON, and then it's just very strange. So a lot of getting used to it. I thought the fact of how many golf shots they showed was probably the best thing. And I think that's the struggle that, CBS and NBC have with some of their coverage. They get a lot of complaints about, oh, let's go talk to the president of this company for 8 minutes. And like people get upset about that. So I think the number of golf shots shown was really good. But they're going to have to, it's just that it was the, first time intrigue of let's tune in. Like I didn't watch Friday or Saturday at all. So that maybe, I don't know if that tells you something as someone who's a big golf fan, but doesn't need to tune in. And I wasn't remotely interested. I think you're right that Charles Schwartz making $4 million is not interesting to me. It's him, competing against a bunch of great players does, but they're going to have to get some young guys. It feels like, the guys they're getting are sort of, quote unquote black sheeps of the tour. Some of the older guys that maybe John Rahm this morning called it a retirement plan was his quote. So it's interesting. I don't know if you saw Rahm's quote at all. He did like 2 minutes talking about it. It was like the most, it was the best thing I saw because he wasn't critical of anybody. He wasn't really critical of that. He was just explained why the PGA Tour is where he wants to be. That was a really good 2 minutes of explaining where he wants to be without being throwing shade at anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, it's like part of the media procession is if you appear in front of a microphone, you're going to get a live golf question, and it's fascinating how differently everybody handles it.
And then you get Brooks Koepka who handles it completely differently than everybody else, which was, of course, what you get from Brooks, right?
Yeah, I mean, did he ever say he's not going? That's what I was looking for.
So it's funny, right? He's like, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm here for the U.S. Open, but he never really said I don't want to go. So,
his brother's there, his buddy DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson are over there. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, it's going to continue to be a fascinating story to follow, and it just I wouldn't say it has a cloud over the Open, but it's definitely just the dominating story coming into this week.
So let's talk about the U.S. Open. I think it's my favorite tournament of the year. I like that it's always difficult. I love it. I just like different courses. I like that it's always hard. I like that I wouldn't want every event to be even might win this tournament. -8 might win this tournament. But I like this event. I like it's always different. Like it's always really tough. I love the Masters, but I think U.S. Open week is probably my favorite week of the year. You said that like you're surprised. Not your favorite event?
Well, I would have thought you'd pick the Masters.
Yeah, I love the Masters.
But I don't know. I feel like I feel the most confident from a gambling perspective at the Masters because but the U.S. Open certainly presents opportunities, especially when you get kind of a different course like this year where it's not Torrey Pines, where it's just you got to just bomb and gouge. Basically, this is a little bit of a different type of setup that. There's opportunity, right, for the savvy fantasy player or gambler to make some money this week. So we'll see if we can help them. I've got thoughts.
Beautiful. But, I do too. Let's talk about the course real quick.
Sure.
Brookline last had the U.S. Open in 1988. I think Curtis Strange won that year, so it's been a long time. Obviously, the famous Ryder Cup there in '99 with the Justin Thomas putt was there, so that's where people know this course mostly from. The U.S. Amateur was there in 2013. But what are your impressions of the course overall from stuff you've read this week? Do you think it's going to be super tough? Do you think we're just talking regular tough? What do you think we're going to get from kind of a winning score course setup this week?
Yeah, it's one of the mysteries. I mean, I think they'll aim for super tough. I mean, the rough is thick. They want to punish players who are airing off the tee. They want to punish players who miss greens. So those are not places you generally want to be. Although Bryson DeChambeau did win a U.S. Open from the rough a few years ago, so perhaps it can be done. As it's not as long as some of our recent U.S. Open venues. But I'm really excited to just see this place. It has such a storied history in the game of golf, yet I feel like I don't really know it. It's fun to just kind of get even just those sneak peeks into practice rounds and things early in the week right now, and just sort of. I mean, you can see the rough is no joke. It looks like a classic, brutally tough Northeastern U.S. golf course to me. But I'm very excited. I think the course also is a bit of a wild card. Pick a winning score. USGA has said doesn't have to be even par, but certainly they're going to try. They pride themselves on the toughest test in golf. So we'll see. Get a little weather this week, and all bets are off. But I think they'll set it to the edge. That's what they do, right? They're going to try to set this up to be the toughest thing these guys see all year.
Yeah, super small greens. So I think, greens in regulation is going to be down. You want guys that A, hit greens, but B, if they don't, can play from around the green. I think, saving par at U.S. Open's always big. Sounds like wind could be an issue. Some might kick up on Thursday and Friday afternoon, which is going to make that place really tough. I don't know if you saw did you see the Max Homa clip? He was like practicing a little flop shot, and it was like, he must have hit it, 3 feet in the air, like a 3-foot chip, and it rolled like 35 feet on the green. It was an insane clip, and I'm sure it's downhill, but like he had a look on his face, like, I have no idea what to do if this is the case. So it's, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be fast. You get fast greens, you get small greens. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to get up and down to win this tournament, I think.
Did Homa appear emotionally shattered after that? Because he was one of my recommended picks. So I guess I need to go back and watch this.
He appeared more laughing at it, like this is going to be interesting, but I think emotionally shattered was off the table. So
all right, okay. I'm looking for his confidence to be running high here on the show today. So
one note before we get into DraftKings, 6 of 6 this week is very tough. It's a huge field. Granted, a lot of those are some qualifiers and some older guys, but it's still, the cut is only the top 60 this week. So usually we get 65. We used to get 70. Now we get 60 this week. So 6 of 6 is really tough. You get 5 of 6, that might win some stuff, but 6 of 6 is going to be key, going to be really tough. If you can get there, you're definitely cashing, and you got a chance to win. But let's jump into the top tier. We obviously have the elite of the elite. We don't need to talk about field. This is as stacked a field as you get. We've got looks like 6 guys over 10,000. We have Scotty Scheffler, who's won pretty much every tournament this year at 11-3. Justin Thomas coming off the PGA win at 10-9. John Rahm 10-8. Rory off the win last week at 10-5. Throwing shade at Greg Norman along the way, which was a fantastic speech at the end there. Cam Smith, 10-2. My favorite golfer, Colin Morikawa at 10,000. Obviously, you can argue for any of the guys in this tier. When you get over 10,000, you can argue for anybody. We got to make choices. That's what we have to do in DFS. If you got to pick 1 or 2 off this tier, where are you finding yourself leaning this week?
Well, I think that to me, Scheffler is no longer the favorite of this tournament. He's been. I think the Masters was his peak. He's played well at times, lost a playoff to Sam Burns, could have won another event there. But Rory is the betting favorite on straight ticket bets. And here he is as your 4th choice in DraftKings. So to me, he's the value. Can somebody win 2 weeks in a row with the second one being a major? Actually, the last person to do that was Rory McIlroy. So he can do it. So This is a guy that just, when he gets hot, his level, his peak is, he's one of the few guys that can not only win, but win by 7. He's done it before. It's been a while, but I like McIlroy at the price, although you could talk me into just about any of them. I'm not sure about Morikawa, and I know he's one of your favorites, and I'm interested if you're picking him this week, but I just don't think it's just sort of not clicking right now for him. And I think Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas just went head to head, and Scotty Scheffler is like already locked up player of the year. I just don't. If you're picking off this year, and Rahm at least has a win in Mexico, and I just don't know off this tier. I think Morikawa, and this is borderline sacrilege on the Gaming Golf podcast, but I think Colin Morikawa is a fade for me at the U.S. Open. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's I'm not going to tell you wrong. It's a very, very crazy event, but I am not playing Morikawa either. He's got 4 straight events outside the top 25. I actually am not playing any Morikawa or any Cam Smith off this tier. So if you got to take a couple guys off. The way I'm building this week, I love the 8s. I love the 9s. I think I'm probably making, 1 guy above 10 at the most in any lineup. I don't think I'm going any 2 10s lineups because I don't like the 6s a lot this week. And I think that finding the cheaper guys is really hard. I can't argue against Rory at all, and he seems really fired up right now. He seems locked in. He seems kind of motivated by this live golf stuff. Like he seems like he's trying to prove a point. So I'm going to have some McIlroy. I'll probably mention more guys this week than normally. I'm going to play more lineups this week. It's a major. It's fun, so my core gets a little bit bigger than it does. But I'm going John Rahm in this range. 10-8. He's between Rory and JT, who I think are going to be the most popular. He's the 3rd highest priced guy now. You look at last 24 rounds, he is 1st in this field off the tee, which I think is a massive stat this week. I think you have to hit it far, but you have to hit it. You have to hit in the fairway too. I think the guys I don't think the Bryson driving gouge is going to work this week. By the way, they set up with the angles and there's a lot of elevation around the green. I don't think the just hit as far as you can because nobody's going to hit their green anyway works quite as well this week. So I really like Rahm. He was 10th at Memorial last tournament, putted really well there. Didn't hit it great. But his approach numbers are a little skewed. He's only like 45th in approach last 20 rounds, but he had a 6.6 loss at the Players. Just played kind of skews his overall results, but I just like how he sounds this week. He seems like he's motivated. You look at ball striking, he's 6th in the field in the top 24. I think he's a little teeny bit overlooked this week with everybody loving JT and Rory. So I'm going to go Rahm at 10-8. I'm also going to have some McIlroy at 10-5. I think Rory's just hitting the ball the best of anybody in the whole field right now. You can't go wrong with both those guys. But unfortunately, I agree with you on Morikawa. I'm not going to have any, and if he wins this week, it'll hurt. But I just don't think the form is quite there like it is with these other elite guys in the range.
Yeah, the chip on the shoulder thing is kind of an X factor too. Like, Rahm, he doesn't seem as angry about live golf maybe as like a Rory or a JT, but his press conference was fascinating.
Yeah, it was good.
But I do really, really like the idea of angry Rory, with a chip on his shoulder. I'm starting my build right there with McIlroy and Justin Thomas too. I'd probably mix in those two guys. I like Rahm a lot, but you got to make choices. So
it's funny. It's funny that Scheffler is the most expensive and has the most wins, but like you look at it and you kind of think he's the fourth favorite of those top guys.
Right? I do. Yeah, I do.
So let's jump into the nines. I think this is obviously we have an event where the field is stacked. A lot of great players get pushed down to the 9, pushed down the 8 because they just can't put everybody up top. What are you doing in the 9s? Looking at the names here, we've got Victor Hovland at 9-7. I don't think anybody's going to be playing Hovland. Struggling lately, really rough around the greens. Xander's 9-6, Jordan Spieth 9-5. We get to our first live discussion here with DJ at 9-4, Will Z at 9-3, Patrick Cantlay coming off struggling in a lot of majors. He's not had a good major history, especially recently. 9-2, Hideki at 9-1, and Shane Lowry at 9,000. I like a lot of the guys in this group. Probably going to be 3 guys I'm going to play in a bunch of lineups, kind of move around my core. But what are you doing in the 9s? Who are your favorites here?
Yeah, I feel like Hovland's just going to pop and win a major at some point. But I think at this point I've resigned myself to being late, or at least maybe taking a look at the British, where it's not quite so tricky around the greens, where it won't hurt the weakness of his game won't be as exploited so much. So I'm with you. I'm off him this week, but I feel a little bit less confident being off of Hovland than I was at the PGA or at the Masters. I like Schauffele a lot.
Me too.
I think he's got the right profile of length and accuracy. He's also just a great bet at U.S. Opens. If you look at his track record, he's got 5 or 6 of these now under his belt, and he's not finished worse than 7th place. It's 7th place.
5 U.S. Opens, never worse than 7th. Like that's a bonkers. That's an impossible track record.
Yeah, you almost think, well, this is the week he's going to miss the cut because that's just insane. But I don't know. Sometimes you just can't fight a trend, right? So I think for me, he was my favorite off of this tier. I think Spieth is still interesting, given the profile of the course. And Zalatoris, has proven himself to be a big game hunter. So I wouldn't fault you for either of those guys, but my build starts Rory, Xander. And then I got a lot of guys actually in the 7s and 8s that I like I want to stay off the 6s. There's too much.
Well, I have some good names down there if you do want to punt, but I don't think you can rely on those guys this week. But I love Xander this week too. He's actually my pick to win. I don't have him in one and done, or I'd use him this week. But last 24 rounds, he's 8th in approach. He's 13th in ball striking. He gained. You look at just tee to green. He gained 7.8 Memorial, 7.9 at PGA, 9.8 at AT&T. Just playing really, really well right now. Has not gotten that win, but top 24 last 5. Love him. Will Z, I mean, the major stuff is real. He's 6th at the Masters, 2nd at the PGA, lost in the playoff there to JT. A little inconsistent. His last 5 events, 2 missed cuts and 3 top 6s. So you're either getting the elite or you're getting some rough stuff. I think the lack of the putting stuff doesn't worry me as much here. Small greens, you're not going to have to 2-putt from 60 feet like you do at some of these tournaments. I think that he's good around the greens. I think the putting maybe gets muted a little bit this week. So I like him too. So we're kind of in line here on the 9s, but I also do like no surprise to anybody, I like Shane Lowry at 9,000 again. Had a nice bounce back. He was just kind of okay at Memorial and PGA. Hit it really well at the Canadian Open. Gained 11.9 tee to green, 5.3 in approach. You just look at his whole 2022 year. I mean, he's made all 8 cuts, 6 of those in the top 15, 4 top 10s. I feel like he's a guy who plays well in tough courses too. We see him win the Open Championship. I think tough fields, tough courses, really good Shane Lowry stuff. And then you look at stats too. last 24 rounds, 9th in ball striking, 7th in approach, 12th in tee to green. All the ball striking metrics are right there. So Xander, Will Z, Shane Lowry. It feels weird not to have it. I'm not touching DJ. Are you?
No. Just curious.
As a general thought, do you think that's how he's playing, or do you worry about the live guys coming over here and the pressure and all that kind of weird stuff?
I don't think Dustin Johnson is distracted by anything, but I don't like the way he's playing. I mean, he finished like 7th or 8th, I think, at the live thing, but I mean, he lost to Oliver Becker and Henny Duplessis. I mean, he's not in top form, and so that's the main reason why I would fade DJ.
I agree too. I think this is a really good setup for Hideki. I'm just a little bit worried about the neck issue, and I don't know how healthy he fully is. But I mean, it's a great any kind of ball striker course like this sets up well for Hideki. Just didn't play great at the PGA, and I just wonder if he's fully healthy. So I always play Hideki in events like this, but I think I'm going to move to Lowry and Will Z in the range instead. But before we get to the 8s, a real quick note from our sponsors at Blue Wire. So Jeff, the 8s. Usually we talk about the 8s. We're like, I don't know about all these plies, but we got big names in the 8s. Majors are great for this. Just flipping through the names real quick. Starting at the top, we got Joaquin Niemann at 8-9, Cam Young, Brooks Koepka, Billy Horschel, winner last tournament at 8-6, Matt Fitzpatrick at 8-5, Daniel Berger, Sam Burns, Tony Finau coming off the second place in the Canadian Open, friend of the podcast, Max Homa, and friend of no golf courses anywhere, Tyrrell Hatton at 8,000, who does not like to set up at any course he ever plays at. Last week, he had complaints about the Canadian Open again. I love the 8s this week, Jeff. I especially love the lower 8s. But what are you doing in this range? Because obviously this spot where there's a lot of big names in here, and some of these guys are going to pop on the leaderboard.
I would mention him at the PGA, but I'm staying with Matt Fitzpatrick. I just think he's playing the best golf of his career right now. And
do you worry about distance with him at all this week? Do you think no. Maybe that some of these par 4s are going to be really long approach shots for someone who doesn't hit the ball too far?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, but I think his accuracy and just all around game.
Huge. Yeah.
Plus some good vibes. He's the only guy in the field that's held a trophy at this place. So having won the US Am at 2013. Yep. So
good call.
I absolutely am aggressive. I'd be aggressive with Fitzpatrick off this tier, but there's a lot of guys, like you said. I mean, Tony Finau, coming back to life. Seems like he's a little bit streaky, but he might be catching on to a hot streak. Sam Burns has been one of the best players this year, and he's down there priced like a guy who's, with like one win in the last 3 years. I don't know why the price doesn't make sense for Burns.
It feels really cheap.
And then Homa, like I alluded to earlier, I just think also is another player on the rise, figuring that out at majors. Was he top 10 at the PGA? 13th at the PGA.
13th.
So, but still just, it feels like somebody, I like looking for guys who are ascending, heading into majors. And so I think those are 3 examples: Fitzpatrick, Burns, Homa, and even Finau, is maybe starting to find it. He was a guy that everybody thought was going to win a bunch of these, years ago. And he hasn't really come close lately, but doesn't mean he can't come close this week. So, I like a lot of guys in this tier.
I love this range. I'm actually, the way I'm building, I'm going to play guys in the bottom of this range. I like them as much as I can do with the guys at the top. I mean, I know we've talked about Cam Young a lot, but at 8,800, I think he struggled at Memorial. I think that I just like the guys cheaper than him. I think the guy I like that's not going to be high percentage in this group is Daniel Berger. He's 8,400. He was 5th at Memorial. Really played a lot better, gained 5.3 shots on approach. I think the top 3 or 4 in the top 25 makes me think that maybe the back issues are behind him. He did miss the cut at the PGA, but he hit it badly, putted terribly, just kind of one of those weeks where nothing went well. He's made 4 straight U.S. Open cuts, 2 top 10s. He was 7th last year, so plays well in these long, tough courses. So I do like Berger, and I think he'll be one of those names that will be a little under-owned this week, because I think Fitzpatrick above him and Sam Burns below him will be very popular. I love Burns this week. One of my picks, when we talk about the bets, I'm taking him to win. You look at the last 24 rounds. You want to talk about hitting greens, first in shot gains approach in the entire field, 15th in ball striking, 14th tee to green, 4th in short game too. So just a guy that's approaching really well, hitting well, but if he doesn't get there, the short game is really playing well too. So I think Burns is like at this price, just a really nice combo of hitting it well and putting it well the last 3 weeks. It feels like he's kind of peaking at the exact perfect time right now. 8,300, I think, is just too cheap. And I mean, Finau at 8,200 feels cheap to me too. I mean, he's really found his game lately, back-to-back top 5s. what do you shoot 63 on Sunday at Canadian Open? I know he didn't win, but it only because Rory just went nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really blame him. We talk a lot about Sunday Finau and not getting it done, but like you couldn't have asked much more of him last week. And he's gained significant tee to green in 3 straight and 4 of 5. His game has really come around. And if you look historically, he's played last 17 majors he's played in 9 top 10s. He's a guy that really plays these courses really well. So a lot of Berger for me, Burns, Finau, and obviously Max Homa at 8,100. I mean, he's made 9 straight cuts, and all but one of those were top 25. Just contending every week. You mentioned 13th, the PGA hit it well there, gained 7.4 tee to green. I'm going to mix and match in these 4 guys in a lot of lineups. I'll have 2 in a bunch of lineups. I love this range. That's what I love about majors the most. You get really good players down here. You find the right guy. You can really make a run up the leaderboard, which is obviously always fun. In this range, I want to ask you: do you just we scrolled by him, but what do you do with someone like Brooks Koepka at 8,700, who obviously has a really great history at the U.S. Open?
I mean, for me, current form is the tiebreaker, and we just haven't seen enough of him this year for me to feel good about playing. Could easily get burned, but I think I'm just much more excited about Sam Burns at a cheaper price, Max Homa at a cheaper price. It just, this will be a tough, grueling week. I don't know for sure how healthy Koepka is, for sure how in shape his game is. So just too many questions. I'm a pass.
I think if you want to get some interest in the Brooks Koepka market, I think you just bet him to win. I don't think you play him in DraftKings. I think there's a more of a chance that he misses the cut to me than some of the other guys in this range. But I acknowledge that if he's Brooks, he could win the tournament. So I think the equity with Brooks is probably in a win bet for me rather than it would be in playing him in DraftKings. I think he's a little too risky to miss the cut myself. Let's jump down to the high 7s. You mentioned you like a lot of guys in the 7s. Let's go 7,500 to 8,000. I've got 3 names in here I really like, but who do you like here in the high 7s?
I think Seamus Power is interesting.
Ooh.
I believe he is on Jeff Ericsson's team as Ericsson travels the coast of Ireland this week. I don't know. Powers, he's statistically he's up there in greens and regulation. Top 10 at the PGA Championship, got his first taste of seeing his name up there. Just another player who I don't think has peaked yet. And I just think is trending the right direction and maybe starting to get comfortable at these bigger events. So I really like that price at 7,500. I also think for, someone we're curious of what the Boston crowds might say or do to Mickelson or Dustin Johnson, but whatever it is, it'll be the opposite for Keegan Bradley, who I know is one of your, typical favorite picks, but I think Keegan's an energy player too. I mean, he's a very good Ryder Cup player. He likes to feed off crowds. His weakness is putting, and as you said earlier, these are smaller greens. I don't think putting is going to hurt you as much at this U.S. Open as many others. So all he's got to do is just keep hitting it well like he has been and just make a few, and he could easily be there. So those are my 2 favorites at the 7,500. And then I think Sungjae Im, another guy that you've picked up a lot over the time we've done this, is quietly starting to string together some top 20 finishes and maybe just coming back around a little bit. So Sungjae Im at that price also is interesting to me.
Sungjae feels like a flat out misprice to me. 7,600 I think is way too low. I think he's going to be really, really popular. Interesting you mentioned Power and Bradley because I think finding guys in this range, if you're in a tournament game theory approach, I think Sungjae is going to be really popular, and having a couple guys to maybe pivot away in some lineups and at the same price, I think that he'll bring down the rostership of some of those guys because I think he's going to be so popular. But he missed the PGA for COVID, but he's had 4 straight top 21s, gained really well tee to green last 3 events. You look at Memorial, he was 10th there, gained 6.9 tee to green, 3.7 approach. And then if you look at the top last 24 rounds, the numbers don't look great, but he had a little bad stretch in there. If you look at the top last 12 rounds, so kind of really recent form, 4th in tee to green in the whole field, 10th in ball striking, 7th off the tee, 22nd approach, has been just a flat elite ball striker again the last three events he's played. So when Sungjae's playing well, ball striking is his key, and I think that I think it's 7,600. I think is a flat mispricing. He's going to be popular, but I'm going to have some myself also. Also in this range, I like friend of the podcast Corey Connors this week. He had a 62 on Sunday at the Canadian Open to get kind of not really in the mix, but on the outskirts of the mix. Nice momentum there. His last 6 events, he's finally kind of back to the Corey Connors we talked about in the past. 1 missed cut, 5 top 25s, hit it really well the last 2 weeks. You look at his tee to green numbers. Were really good at the Canadian Open, really good at Memorial. I think he's kind of, again, like we mentioned with Burns, are kind of peaking at the right time. And then our other friend, I think Mito Pereira has showed me a lot. I think that coming off that PGA, I think you and I both talked about that. Like how's someone like that going to respond? Have the lead on 18, hit the ball in the water. Like that can be crushing for guys. Like you may never hear about him again, but he did. Then he backed it up with 7th at the Schwab, 13th in the Memorial, really good tee to green numbers. He's just playing great. His last 5 tournaments are like elite levels of tee to green, gaining strokes there. You look at the last 24 rounds, and we talk about the numbers of guys in the, over 10, over 9. He's 3rd in the whole field in tee to green. He's 2nd in ball striking. He's 8th off the tee. He's 12th in approach. He's hitting the ball as well as any golfer in this field. And that includes the top elite guys. So I think that the fact he showed me that much coming off the PGA, didn't really, didn't get his own head and handled that so well. 7,800, I think, is a really good price for Mito here too.
All right, I like it. We're got a pretty good list going of overlaps. Yes, I know. Yeah. I noticed one thing that happens a lot on this show for our legion of fans watching is when you and I say the same name.
Yep.
Those are often the hits. And so far we've got, you're sort of on Rory, but you were actually all in on Rahm off that.
I'm all in on, but I nothing against Rory. I mean, I think that the dude's awesome right now.
So Xander,
yep,
Burns. You didn't say Keegan. You didn't. I thought for sure you'd say, and Sung Jae.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Keegan just with the more recent form. I think he was hitting it really well in the last 3 weeks. Has kind of just been okay, or last 2 weeks have been okay. And then he putted really well at Wells Fargo when he almost won. I always like Keegan. There's other guys in the range I like more. So nothing against him. And the Boston thing is interesting too. I think he will feed off the crowds pretty well. What about the low 7s? I think there's one name in here that I'm pretty much would bet my life you're going to say. But who do you like? Who do you like in the low 7s?
I'll start with the name you probably aren't betting, which is Tom Hoagie.
Oh, all right.
Also, I believe he won this year. Did he not? I'm trying to. He did.
He won. He won at. Yeah. He won at Pebble in February.
Right. Gosh,
yeah.
That's a lifetime ago.
It really
Top
does.
10 at the PGA. Just starting to get used to the bright lights. I think that's a misprice for a guy with again an all around game that I'm sort of looking for this week. And then fine, I'll go ahead and say it. When is the DraftKings odds setter going to pick up on Davis Riley, top 10 machine? What are we doing here? This is a 3-way race for Rookie of the Year. Davis Riley, Mito Pereira, and Cam Young. And
that's a great group of names.
He's mispriced by $1,000 on this game, and so I'll just happily plug him in until I get burned. But this has just been, it continues to be a great run, and it's not, you just can't have this many top 10s, top 15 finishes without being legit. So I think this guy's legit, and
he's got to be again. He's got to be really popular at 7,300, right? Like that price has to be too low. I mean, 5 straight top 13s, and you try and look at stats. You're like, maybe I can poke some holes on this, but you look at the last 3 weeks, that gained heavily in approach, gained heavily on tee to green, and finished 13th at the PGA. So, like you say before, and someone else, got the name in lights a little bit, and he backed that up with a 4th at Schwab, a 13th at Memorial, and none of it's like weird, fluky, like Denny McCarthy putting streaks or anything at all like that, or Jordan Spieth chipping in 3 times, like just hitting the ball great. You look at the last 24 rounds, like his last 12 rounds, especially, he's 1st in approach in this field, 2nd in ball striking, 8th in tee green in the whole field, like just playing so well. I think he's gonna be popular. If you want to pivot off him and go with somebody in the same range, who I think will be way, way less popular, I do like Harold Varner III. We talked about how he melted down at Schwab. He was like on the leaderboard, had the lead, and then going to the 4th round and played badly, but I love how well he bounced back at the Canadian Open. Gained 10.5 shots tee green, 5.7 on approach. He was top 25 at the Masters. So another guy that, got the name in lights, finished well in the majors, made the cuts in both majors, made 7 straight cuts, hitting the ball really well. And I think just the fact that he and Davis Riley are the same price is going to have to keep the rostership really, really down.
Yeah, Varner's a good call. I mean, you look for guys who are, again, playing the best golf at the right time. And Varner's, he's got that win. So he's got that breakthrough. Just seeing him a lot more on these big broadcasts. And so I think he's a very good choice as well.
Yeah, I be careful because I like him a lot. So I have to be careful not to get that in my analysis, but I do. I'd love to see him make a run in a big event. What about under 7? We mentioned before, under 7 is scary. You got to get guys that make cuts here. It's hard to make the cut. It's top 60. But are there any names under 7,000 you are going to slot in some lineups, some punt plays? Anybody in the 6s that you find yourself being attracted to this week?
I guess we should just, the elephant in the room at 6,900, Phil Mickelson. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
I mean,
he does have a history of when you're convinced it's going to go one way, it goes the other for him. But I don't think so this week. Finishing in I think it was 33rd place out of 48 guys, of which we've heard of 15 of them last week. I don't think he's anywhere near contending in this thing. So I think a couple of guys that I think are interesting. Kevin Kisner, I mentioned a lot when he pops up down at this price, but I just think a grinder mentality. He's flashed in majors before. This feels like a major championship setup that he could contend on. Someone like him, he's making a career out there where, probably 20 to 40% of the golf courses, it's not going to happen for him. But this is one, when distance is not a premium, when it's not just, you got to overpower the thing. And so I think it's interesting for him. And then also Mackenzie Hughes right below him there is a guy who's flashed at majors, quietly kind of top 20, 25, I think in Canada last week. But I don't know, just somebody I kind of came back to today is just thinking, oh yeah, remember when he was in this thing, it could have been him really for a while there. Was that last year or 2 years ago? It's all blurring in my Mackenzie Hughes. Like, he hit it up in the tree, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember the tree.
Was it 2 years
yeah,
ago?
he finished 15th last year, so it was last year.
Okay, so it was last year. So yeah, Hughes is kind of interesting, and then I've also, ever since you brought him up as a deep sleeper a few weeks ago, Ryan Fox.
Yep.
I saw him on the leaderboard at the PGA Championship there for a minute. And so down at this price range, I think you're just looking for somebody to make a cut and looking for a reason. And his profile says all around game and probably mispriced. So I'm intrigued there too. But that's about all I've got for the 6,000s. My strategy is to live in the 7s and 9s really this week.
So notice, to no surprise to you, Ryan Fox for sure down here, 6,700, made the cut at PGA, gained 5.7 approach at that tournament. But you look at his last 4 events on the DP, the European Tour, now the DP Tour. He was tied at 9th at Cataluna, tied T8 British Masters, T2 at the Sodal Open in May. And then after the PGA, he went back to the DP Tour. All he did was finish 2nd at the Dutch Open. Like, he's just on leaderboards there. And I can understand it's not quite the fields the PGA is, but like that's still a really good tour. He's finishing top 10 every single week. He came over here and made the cut. I love Fox at 6,700. I think I will play him in some lineups, definitely for sure. 6,700. My other guy is also a Euro guy. It's Adri Arnaud at 6,800. He's from Spain. He's had 12 events this year worldwide, 4 top 10s and a win. He actually won that Cataluna one that Fox was in. He won that April 22. He played the PGA and finished 30th. Actually, he gained 8.9 shots tee to green, 4.9 off the tee. So hit the ball really well. He hits it far too. He's a really big hitter, which I think if you can get it in the fairway this week, down a little bit, that's gonna help a lot. He's 6,800. Again, these Euro guys, you never know how they're gonna come over, but I like the fact he played really well at the PGA. He went back to Europe after the PGA and finished 16th in the Porsche Euro Open in early June. So just playing really good golf right now. I think Arnaud is a guy that I do like. We'll have him some lineup 6,800. If you want a pure punt play, 6,300, also from the Euro Tour, Marcel Schneider is at 6,300. He has finished top 7 in his last 3 Euro events. 5th at the Porsche Open, 4th at the Dutch Open, T7 at the Sodal Open in May, and those are all last couple months. So if you find yourself, you really want to play Rory and Rahm and Xander, something like that, you want to really get 3 guys up there. I think Marcel Schneider is the guy that 6,200 could make the cut and really help you out. As Jeff chokes and drinks some water,
fighting a cold this week. Marcel Schneider, congratulations, podcast debut. That was good.
There you go. So what about the betting angle? We kind of hit all the DraftKings angles and prices there. Betting these events are always a little bit tough to me. I find myself wanting to bet too many guys. I like, oh my gosh, this guy at this price, because everybody gets pushed down a little bit. You got to find yourself, cutting back and making sure you bet the right guys and not too many. What are you doing from a betting card? Because I will have a couple more bets than normal, but I have to make sure, you can't bet Rahm, Rory, and JT all at the same time, because you're going to find yourself, even if you win, you're not going to win any money. What are you doing with the field this week from a betting angle on the SI Sportsbook here?
So I'm just going to bet 3 guys I think could win. There's my favorite 3. I don't like the odds on Rory at 10-1, but I think he's going to win. So I've already used him in 1 and done, so I can't pick him there. So I want him somewhere. So I'll take him as a straight ticket bet. Xander Schauffele at 22-1, I think those are actually juicy odds.
Love it.
And then Max Homa, 40-1. I think I could see him winning this event. So I'm in on those 3. And then a couple for top 5s, Keegan Bradley at 15-1. And Davis Riley, who we know is going to finish in the top 5 at 11-1. They're just giving it to you. So those are my bets, mean and lean. this week.
I like it. I think that's it's probably a good way to go. I mean, at some point you got to bet the guy that you think is going to win, and I'm doing that this week. I'm doing it with Xander Schauffele. He's 22-1. I'm going to stay away from the top. There's 4 guys that are 14 under or below, and then Cam Smith at 21. So I'm going to start my ticket with Xander at 22-1. Then I'm going to play 2 guys at 28-1. Sam Burns at 28-1. I'm going to take 2 of these guys. I'm not taking anybody at the top, and then Shane Lowry at 22-1. I think he fits this course really, really well. So I like the profile here. I think Sam Burns just playing really well. So those are my 3 guys kind of in the second, third tier up at the favorites. And then I'm going to drop back. I just think the value on Daniel Berger at 50-1 is a little bit too much for me to pass up. I like that price a lot. I think that if the back's okay, and it seems like it is these last couple of events, I think 50-1, he's just too good a player for that price. And then you mentioned Davis Riley top 5. I'm going to go ahead and take the to win 66-1. I think that he's playing too well to be 66-1 right now. You look at some of the names above him, and they're guys that I think I think Davis Riley has a much better chance to contending this week than them. So I'm going to go him. It was tough for me. I kind of had to go him or Mito. I'm going to go Riley 66-1, although I like both of those guys. And then I'm going to drop way back. Ryan Fox is 200-1, a couple bucks there, but also top 10. He's 14-1. I think he's a guy that we mentioned all the top 10s on the DP tour. I like him at 14-1 to make a top 10. And then also the other Euro guy I mentioned, Ardri Arnaud. He's 250-1. Couple bucks there just in case, but also an 18-1 bet, a little more money there on a top 10 also. I think that both Fox and Arnaud, I think one of those guys is going to end up kind of mixing in the leaderboard over the weekend, and I want to make sure I get a piece of it, even though, maybe it'll be really tough for them to win, but I think at least one of them can contend this weekend.
Ardri Arnaud.
Yeah. You're going to know that name by the
I now know.
A name you now know for sure.
I'll finish the limerick by next week's show. Love it.
What about one and done? Jeff Erickson is not here, but I do have his one and done. He was going to take John Rahm. That's who he thinks is going to win, but he did use him already. So Jeff Erickson is in with Cam Smith this week as his official one and done pick. What is your official one and done pick?
All right, so let me pull it up as I do these.
You mentioned you've used Rory, otherwise that would be your pick clearly.
It would. Yep, yeah. It absolutely would. So I am between Xander and Sam Burns, and I am going to lock in Xander. Partly because I have Sam Burns on my season-long fantasy team, and I sort of win anyway if he wins. I'm still happy, so I'm gonna lock in Xander. It's locked.
So I've used Rahm and Xander. Obviously, if you listened to the first 42 minutes of the show, you would figure those would be my picks. I've used them both. So I'm going to go with the guy that you almost used. I'm going to go Sam Burns this week. I'm betting him. I'm playing the one and done. I've used a lot of the big names, kind of trying to catch up. It hasn't really worked, but I'm going Sam Burns. I think he's got a really good chance to win this week. I love how he's playing. I like that. I think he fits for this course. I think on Sunday we're going to see Sam Burns up there. So that is my pick there.
I like it. If Dustin Johnson wins, what will that?
Can you imagine?
What will that be like?
It's gonna be.
What will happen?
It's gonna be so strange because he's the one guy that is the guy that you still can win events that went, and I don't know. It's wild. It'll be interesting to see. Bryson and Reed. I don't know what they're gonna do. They didn't play last week, but they said they're gonna go play the Portland event. I don't know. It's gonna be if DJ contention on Sunday. It's gonna be wild out there.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fascinating week regardless. So look forward to it.
It's funny. Last year we saw at the PGA, everybody was rooting for Phil. Does anybody root for Phil on the weekend this week? Does he still have enough fans that people root?
No,
he must, right?
I think so. So. It just might be. I would predict you're going to hear both. You're going to hear hecklers and people behind him. It's just going to be. He's polarizing now, right? So I think you're going to hear, and you've got a Boston crowd with. I haven't checked the beer prices this week, but I imagine they'll be competitive enough to.
I watched enough finals games this week with the Warriors that I can promise you the Boston crowd will be rowdy.
Yeah. So, the reception for Phil, the reception for all the Live Golf guys is just one of many, sidebar storylines that is. This can be interesting.
So a step above the reception for Draymond Green is what you're saying, then.
I think so, but I'm not positive. I'm really not.
It'll be interesting. Any other parting thoughts? So it's a major. It's a great week. I'm looking forward to it. Any parting thoughts before we jump out here?
Let's do it. Brookline's got a great history. What little fact? Every single time Brookline's hosted a U.S. Open, it's ended in a playoff. Wow. There you go. So, how is that? That's 4 times or something like that? 3 times. Yeah, okay. 3 times. And then it had, arguably the greatest Ryder Cup ever. So this is a great stage, and I'm excited to see it.
Do you think we see any of the shirts the U.S. team wore on Sunday at the U.S. Open or the Ryder Cup in '99?
Man, I hope so.
God, those are beautiful.
If you want to get on TV this weekend,
Yeah.
you know, go find that on I don't know where you even find that.
Probably
store somewhere.
Yeah. Probably eBay somewhere, right? I'm sure there must be someone selling them.
I don't know.
Yeah,
where it's one of those places where people just make those things. But you're guaranteed to land on the broadcast if you wear that shirt on Sunday.
Yeah, it's too bad that great Sunday was ruined by how bad those shirts were. But anyway, well, thanks thanks for joining for Jeff Ritter. I am Scott Jenstad. Obviously, we'll be back next week with Jeff Erickson joining. Please rate and review the podcast if you enjoy listening to us. Enjoy listening to us, seeing us on the video or listening to us in the audio version. Please do rate or review the podcast. Helps people find us. Helps people realize that it's a fun and good listen. So we appreciate that. Other than that, hope everybody has a really good U.S. Open week. Enjoy the tournament. We'll be back at you next week. Take care.
Thanks, Scott.